Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It is Friday night. I think it's Friday night. Is it Friday night? It is Friday night. And you're listening to Paranormal Review Radio, the only radio show without commercials and with more great paranormal talk. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Anthony Agati in New York.
And I'm Luci in Chicago. Put the kids to bed and get comfy because you're about to have a Paranormal Friday night. Welcome, friends, family, fellow investigators, and those who are new to the field. Do you have a question to ask us, or do you have a story to tell tonight? Well, don't worry, you've got two ways to be heard. Call into the show and be on air live by dialing 661-244-9831. Press the number 1 to get your call in queue, or you can type your questions or stories in the chat room. Anthony and I will refer to them during the show. And if you're listening on the archives or on YouTube, well, make sure you get here on Friday nights live. And when you're not listening to us, you can check out our Facebook page and YouTube channel for some cool articles, videos, show highlights, and promotions. And if that's not enough, you can always drop us a line at paranormal.review@aol.com. Okay, kids. It's time for Paranormal Review Radio.
Well, you know, many of you out there, probably like me, are going to go or are going through Halloween withdrawals. And we hope that your Halloween was fun and exciting, as was ours. You know, we had a lot of fun doing our live seance last week. And if you missed it, you can actually catch it on YouTube, or you can catch it here on Blog Talk Radio on the archives. All you have to do is just type in Paranormal Review Radio. So in keeping the Halloween tradition alive all year long, as we always do, we thought what better way than to share the airwaves with our listeners and hear some of your haunting and ghostly tales from the past or present. Everyone I know has strange experiences that they just can't explain, or maybe you've been plagued with an attached spirit for a long time. Whatever your story, we want to hear from you. So tonight we are opening the phone lines to your tales and experiences. As Luci mentioned before, call us tonight at 661-244-9831. That's 661-244-9831, and press the number 1 to talk to us. You know, it's going to be actually interesting to see if our listeners have some sort of pattern to their stories. We always say that. We always talk about this web or invisible thread that sort of lies in between all of the paranormal. But it'll be interesting to see if there's any patterns to the stories or if there's any similar experiences. Luci, what do you think is, or what are you hoping we get out of tonight's show?
Well, I'd like people to call in and share the experiences that they have. I mean, a lot of people, they have things that happen to them. And we've talked about it before. People have a tendency to keep things to themselves. But once you share and once you talk with other people, you find that there's a whole bunch of similarities to what you've experienced and maybe somebody else has. So I'm hoping to see whether or not people will share their stories and just what they've experienced and how close it is to things we've experienced in other listeners.
You know, even during this week, during the promotions that we did on Facebook and the invite and stuff within Twitter and all that stuff, I noticed that there were a lot of people that were commenting that they'd love to listen in and that they are going to listen in tonight's show, either live or on the archives, but they They do have a story to tell, but they're too afraid to tell it. They are either ashamed or too afraid to reveal this sort of inner secret or this part of their life, their history, and they're afraid of any sort of reactions that they may get. And during the course of doing the show and the course of my paranormal experiences and everything that I've done within the paranormal world, I always come across, especially when I do the research, I always come across many, many quotes, either from the present day infamous folks within the paranormal community or past, and they don't even have to be within the paranormal itself. But there was one quote that caught my eye, and it actually was representative of the people who were, to me, screaming out that they want to talk about their paranormal experiences and about their ghostly tales, but are too afraid to say anything out loud. I don't know who said this, but it's actually a really good quote, and I wanted to repeat it tonight. And it goes like this. It says, "Fear is a false evidence appearing real. Being brave isn't about not having fear. It's about being able to function despite the fear." And I think that's so true, because we put this word fear upon ourselves. A lot of, and it doesn't have to be about paranormal itself, but, a lot of these little dark skeletons in our closet and all the secrets that we hold near and dear to us in our life that we don't want to convey or let out, we put that fear on ourselves. We put that pressure on ourselves, and we impose what the public or what our loved ones will actually think or say to us. But you never know what they will say or what they will do until you actually say it or do it or reveal it. And most of the time, and I've heard so many stories, most of the time people are completely surprised at the fact that they've had such a loving response or such a comforting, supportive response from family members or even complete strangers. And Luci and I have done this show for those folks who may not have that support structure in their lives. Either if you don't have the support structure itself, if people are just so negative around you that they just are not open-minded enough to listen to you and to be there for you regardless of what your experiences have been, or if you don't have anyone else in your life at all, if you are alone, if you don't have friends or family, if you don't have that many friends or family, we are your friends and family. We are that sort of home away from home, and that's why we created this radio show, and that's why we created this little community, so that folks like you can come together and talk in this little chat room here that we have, or call us on air and talk to us individually or privately if you want on Facebook or on our Facebook page itself, and get that out there. One of the things that we strive for is getting that communication, getting that sort of back and forth camaraderie between folks who have like-minded or who have things that are similar in nature, and finding those folks and bringing them together so that they have some common grounds that they can talk about, that they can feel comfortable enough to be able to reach out and grab a shoulder and be able to lean on that person and say, hey, you know what, this has happened to me. Has that ever happened to you? And it may or may not have happened to them, but at least they may understand it, or at least they have a good ear for you. So this quote, "Fear is false evidence appearing real. Being brave isn't about not having fear. It's about being able to function despite the fear." So being able to understand that, yes, if the fear is there, the fear is there. You can't get rid of it. Whether or not you put it upon yourself or whether or not somebody else has put it upon you, it's going to be there. You may not be able to get rid of it. So embrace the fear or acknowledge the fear that it's there. But being able to push through it, being able to acknowledge it, being able to convey what it is that you want to convey, and understanding that this is your life. You only have one life here. If you're talking about the paranormal, you understand that this is your one life and one chance here on Earth. And what happens beyond this is probably much more extraordinary than what it is here on Earth. And so why be fearful of what you tell someone else here on Earth when who knows what awaits you from the beyond? So if you do have a story tonight, if you are on that edge, if you are on that fence and you're not sure about whether or not to talk about it, we completely understand. If you want to talk about it within chat, you can go right ahead and start to talk about it in chat. If you want to private message us, you can do that as well. But if you're brave enough and you want to fight that fear, give us a call tonight at 661-244-9831. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk about it. You don't have to give your name if you don't want to. We're not here to out anyone or to put a spotlight on someone. It's always good to, even if it's anonymous, it's always good for that person to feel as though they've sort of got that weight lifted off their chest.
Well, I noticed, like, in the comments, I mean, there was a comment made today, I believe on one of our pages, where someone was talking about, well, they've had tons of experiences, but they didn't really talk about it because of the looks they got. I think that's something that we're all used to, being interested in the paranormal. You get looks. Yeah, you do get looks. But you know what? It's by sharing that you also get answers, or you also get, you're not alone. So many other people have had experiences. I'm already reading in the chat room. Krista Anderson has mentioned that she had a UFO experience. It's not just the scary stories about ghosts and the paranormal. I mean, if you've had a UFO experience or an encounter with extraterrestrials or something like that, that's an experience. Call in and share it. Talk about it. You'd be very, very surprised how many people have had that same experience. But until you share and talk to other like-minded people, you may never find out. And who knows, maybe someone has experienced something a little bit different than you are, but you can, take from their story, and it might help you understand something within your own. So I really hope, you guys feel comfortable. I mean, we're not doing this, like Anthony said, to put anybody on the spot. It's, we're all friends here. Let's talk. Let's share. I mean, I really want to hear about your experiences.
It's always funny when I don't normally bring up this side of my life in my day job. I know you used to do this in your other job. I know you do. I tend to not, because I work more in a corporate environment, and so it's, well, my job is a little bit more corporate than yours, and so I tend to not bring this up. I may bring it up to a certain small net of folks that I trust, but it's funny when the word spreads a little bit outside of that little net, and people catch wind of it, and they ask me about it, and I tell you, 9.5 times out of 10, when they ask me about it, I'm a little trepidatious about talking about it, and I'll sort of, yeah, I do that. I go on, these investigations, and I go around the country, and yes, I do have a radio show, and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they open up, oh, my God, do you know, I have to tell you this. This happened to me when I was 10 years old, and they go into their story about some ghostly tale or something weird that happens to them that they have no idea, and they're like, I don't know what it is, and ever since then I believed in it, but I've never been able to tell anybody about it. And it sort of makes me feel good in a way that they were able to share that story and they were able to tell it. And it's sort of weird in a way, because then they ask the question, well, what is it? What do I do? How do I, can I get rid of it, or is it going to follow me? And I'm like, I don't have the answers. I'm sorry. It's the paranormal. Nobody really has the answers to the paranormal. Maybe this can help you, but, I can't give you a definitive answer on anything. Nobody can, really. But it's I can see it so clearly when people talk to me about it, and their eyes light up, and it's just almost as if they're just it's just coming out of every pore of their body when they start to talk about it. It's fascinating to me.
Well, you got to realize that, okay, at work, yeah, I do talk about it. I mean, come on, it's part of my life. I mean, I've gone from being the princess of darkness, I'm now known as the queen of darkness. But it's really interesting when people, once they start to talk, it is just like really cool to see that. You can see that they've wanted to share this and that they just want someone to listen. And, of course, like I always tell them, like, we don't have the answers. We're not experts, but we just happen to listen to people, and we talk to people who have a little bit more knowledge than we do, a lot more knowledge than we do. And it's by learning and listening that a lot of the paranormal makes sense.
All right, well, talking about listening, I think we have a caller on the line, our first caller on the line. Luci, do you want to pick this person up and get the show on the road?
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. Hi, you're on the air with Anthony and Luci. Who is this?
What's up? It is Nosferatu's butt.
Hey.
How are you guys
I'm
tonight?
not going to say your name.
Well, why not? You can either call me Nos, or a lot of people call me Mr. Butt, so we can go there.
Okay. Mr. Butt.
There you go.
Welcome to the show, Mr. Butt.
Well, thank you. Well, you know, like Anthony, you were saying about, you know, people being open and whatnot. Actually, I really love telling this story because this story was a big impact in my life. It was like one of the number one. I've had a couple paranormal experiences, but this was like, this still kind of pops in there once in a while, even to this day.
What do you mean pops in there? Is it a reoccurring, or is it just you think about it every now and then?
Well, like 6 months ago. Okay, let me tell the story, and it'll kind of fall in place. Okay, have you heard of Amy Semple McPherson?
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't know if some of the listeners out there have heard about her before. Just a quick little rundown of her story is she was from Canada, and she when she was growing up, she kind of ran into when she was smaller, you know, about 17, she ran into a Pentecostal Christian tent, and it kind of sparked something in her, and so she, you know, basically was inspired by that and came to America and basically became one of the biggest evangelists back in the 1920s. And you know, she was really big there at a certain time, and you know, she was kind of like the Liberace of evangelists, because she had a lot of flair and she was just really out there. Well, anyways, there's a town where I used to live, not too far from where I grew up, Lake Elsinore. And out there, they have what they call the castles of Lake Elsinore. And Amy McPherson, she had owned this elaborate, beautiful, just tremendously beautiful mansion out there. Well, this was circa 1998, and a close dear friend of mine, Lawrence, he decided that he would like to rent a car and basically get a couple of us buddies together and kind of do our own little investigation. And so we drove down there. It was at night, and we got out there to Lake Elsinore. It's about 45 minutes away from my home, and basically we pull up on this hill, and the first thing that I can really remember is getting hit by this tremendous heat that just kind of took over my body. And at that time, I was kind of into my little dark phase, and kind of, I was into the occult and just the dark side of life. And so I was kind of drawn to it. And so basically we get up on this hill, and like I said, this tremendous heat just covers my body. And it was me, Lawrence, my best friend Heather, a guy named Sugar Bear, and some other woman. I don't remember her name. And so this mansion, it's hard to explain. I mean, at least 3 stories high, kind of a mixture of Spanish, American, just really beautiful. And the only way you could get inside of this, now this was trespassing, so the only way you can get into this place was there was a hole cut out in the side of this building. So we get inside of the building, we had to crawl through it, and to the left of us, there's this gigantic room, and it's filled, like it's been unearthed, because this place has been abandoned for a long time. But one of the main concerns was either running into, some angry homeless people or, some drug addicts or whatnot.
Right.
And squatters. And so we get in there, and this room, you can see on the side of it, a lot of vandals have written, basic lines from, Aleister Crowley, Anton LaVey, stuff that I recognized because I was really into that. And we walk down this long corridor, and on the sides of the walls, just really elaborate paintings. A bunch of people riding on elephants, riding off into the skies, and just really, really heavy stuff. And on the other side is stuff written, probably to scare us, but we are watching you, and lines from Aleister Crowley's poet, bury me in a nameless grave, stuff like that. And also you can see small ritual tables of candles, and you can tell that some kids or whatnot, preparing rituals, satanic rituals, devil rituals, whatever. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of negativity in that place, a lot of negativity. But it was so beautiful at the same time, just so beautiful at the same time. And you can basically, walking through this place, you can actually feel just the eyes on you. And so we all decided, and we went through this one door, and it basically leads into the front row of the house or mansion. And there's these stairs that have no side rails to them, mind you, and they go about 3 stories up. So we walk up the stairs, and you go into this gigantic ballroom, and honestly, it's just like walking into the scene in The Shining. The tables are still there, turned over. I mean, there's actual still bottles and glasses on top of the bar stools and the bar tables and everything. It was just, you would think that after years of people in there, destroying stuff, breaking things, that these things would be destroyed, but no, they're all there. And the moon was out really high. It was just like the perfect, haunted house story. And the curtains are flowing into the building, and it was just such a beautiful sight to see, but just such negativity in there at the same time. And we did some more exploring, and there's other beautiful rooms and whatnot, but a lot of damage. So, make it long story short, we get to this one area, and there's another door, and me and my friend Lawrence, were like, hey, why don't we open up this door? And my other friend Heather's like, yeah, let's open up this door. So open up the door, and we pointed our flashlights And mind you, we're on the third level. We point our flashlights down the stairs. And then as soon as we did that, a big gust of death and sulfur hit us right in the face. And we were like, taken back by it. They were like, yeah, let's still go down there. Because, we're young, excited. So we started taking our first steps, and then all of a sudden, we hear something coming up the stairs. Like nothing that would ever run like that. No human could run like that. And then accompanying with it, like a dead cow just coming to life, noise just coming up from the depths of the stairs. And then all of a sudden, we get hit with this blast of air right through our bodies. Whew. And the smell of death was just all over us. And the last thing I remember was basically screaming like a little girl, ah! And pushing my buddy Sugar Bear out of the way. Move! Push him out of the way. And mind you, I'm like 350 pounds. And let me tell you, man, I could run faster than anybody in the Olympics. And I ran, like, seriously, I ran so fast I saw my grandchildren graduating, man. I was in the future. So, we got out of that place, and we got in the car, took off. We're all still scared, shaking it off. And on the way there, it felt like there was something else in the car with us. And as soon as we leave the area of the McPherson Castle, I shit you not, the windows in the back of the car blew from the inside out, shattered, was destroyed.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, no exaggeration, they blew. It wasn't like a rock or anything like that. These windows shattered. And so that shook us up even more. And this is when it gets kind of a little serious, too, into this even more, is we went back to our apartment, and we were there for a little bit. And unfortunately, Heather had a miscarriage that night, and about a couple of hours later, because my buddy Lawrence was taking care of his grandfather, died about 2 or 3 hours later. And yeah, it just, maybe because of the stuff that I was into back then, I just felt like whatever negativity was in that place followed us home. It came home with us. And so a couple years later, I decided that I wanted to go back to that place. And I did. And I got in the car, and I drove there, and I was still drawn to it. And the funny thing is I'm so bad with directions, I just knew exactly how to get back to that place. Never been there before, since that one night. And it was at nighttime, but I still knew exactly what turns to get to and how to get there. And the story always comes up once in a while because I've heard people talk about the McPherson Castle. And now let's jump 6 months ago. See, at night I usually have my headphones plugged in and I listen to radio programs when I fall asleep. And I was listening to Art Bell. And I was starting to drift off, and a guy called in talking about a story about a mansion that was in Lake Elsinore. And he basically gave almost the same story that I just gave you now. He said he went to the same door and basically had the same thing come up the stairs. So, yeah, it was pretty heavy when I heard that. And that's how I stumbled upon your guys' show. So, I was looking for other paranormal shows and came upon yours, but it was pretty weird that this guy had the exact same experience as I did.
Well,
so it just validated even more for me.
First of all, I'm amazed at your story, and you told it very well. By the way, I was on the edge of my seat every minute of the way. But I do have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
The first time you went, you said, was in 1998?
Yeah, it was about 98.
Okay. Do you remember what time of the year that was? Was that in spring and summer, winter?
Oh, this was definitely about November, about this time of year actually, because I knew that Thanksgiving was right around the corner.
Okay. Because one thing that came to mind is when you're talking about the blast of heat, and I'm thinking, okay, let me try. The first thing that I always do, because I'm always a skeptic. I'm in the paranormal, but I'm always a skeptic, and I always try and negate everything that could be a possibility. So the one thing I was trying to think of, well, what's the time of the year is it? If it's a blast of heat, okay, so it's around this time, October, November.
Yes.
And my other question is, if all of that had happened in '98, and the experience that you had in the mansion, and then everything afterwards, the window shattering, the miscarriage, your friend's grandfather dying, everything that was negative, what made you go back 6 months ago?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, the 6 months ago was how I heard on the radio about...
Oh, I'm sorry. So when you went back...
Okay, when I went back to it, because at that time I was still into the dark side of life. And, I was fascinated by that. I was always fascinated with the occult and just why I was always drawn to, just evil stuff. And I found it fascinating. And I was also a different person back then, too. So I was just drawn to it. But the thing is that was just such an intense part of my life. And I was so drawn to it, I just had to have more of it. If you can understand that.
Were you trying to find an answer as to why, or were you trying to confront whatever it was that sort of followed you or created whatever it was that created the negativity for that night in '98?
To be honest, I think I wanted more of it. I think maybe I was looking for a power or whatnot that I believed so strongly in back then,
Wow.
And mind you, I was still young then too, 19 years old, and I was going through the whole gothic stage and just really.
I don't disagree. I would have, to be honest with you, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I would have done the same thing. I would have gone back there. It may be so stupid for me to say that, but I would have gone back there and I would have tried to confront whatever it was. I would have wanted to try and find an answer as to who it was or what it was, or try and find something to make sense of whatever it was that was there, or try and see if maybe it wasn't related to anything that was negative that happened to my friends that night. Maybe there wasn't anything there, and maybe it was just I'm creating this coincidence that, we went to the castle, that mansion, and all of this bad negativity happened afterwards. Maybe that's just coincidence, and I just wanted to go there and say, okay, and figure it all out and say, okay, it wasn't, anything that was from that castle or that mansion. I would have done the same exact thing. Same exact thing. So I don't blame you at all.
I'm even worse, though. When the original experience happened, I don't think I would have run out of there. I think I would have probably wanted to find out what's happening. But I do have a question, okay?
Sure.
Amy she's an evangelist, okay? And here we are, we're talking about her home that obviously is abandoned. And you did say that you felt evil, you felt negative. I mean, that
definitely
fascinates me.
That's just it too, right? I totally get that. She was this, preaching love and everything like that, and just what the Christians teach and everything like that, and everybody loved her for everything like that. And to go in a place where it's supposed to be, her home of light and love, and you go in there and it was just pure negativity. And either maybe I was more sensitive to that darkness back then and picked up on it more, because there was just so much, evidence around there of rituals. And even though, Satanism is totally different from devil worship, people who go in there to do rituals are, still trying to conjure up some type of darkness. They don't go in there to, light black candles and speak words of Aleister Crowley for, wonderful good spirits to grant them wishes. No, they go there to touch the devil's fingertip, man. So, when I went in there, I guess maybe where I was at that point, I picked up on that too. And
was that part of why you had wanted to go there? Did you know of anybody that had said anything about dark experiences there? I mean, was that part of the draw?
Well, my buddy Lawrence, he had heard stories, and he was kind of like, and still is to this day, a prophet of doom and destruction. He had heard stories around the campfire too, and thought I'd be interested in it too, because I've always, even to this day, have been into the paranormal and whatnot, and especially at that time, I really wanted to become a parapsychologist. So, this was, also 98. It wasn't, this is, pre-Ghost Hunters, where everything is just, nowadays it's everywhere, So this was kind of a unique experience to go out there and kind of do our own little investigation, as small as it was.
And I do have one other question.
Sure.
Okay. The young lady that had a miscarriage, she was pregnant, and she went into this kind of situation. Did she have any hesitancy, or was she all, let's do this, or?
She was pretty much the same as the rest of us. Were willing to go do this and have a good time, but she was also climbing on my back like a monkey, scared.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not saying because like you, Anthony, my mind is open to everything, because you just have to be. You have to be that way.
Right.
And it could have been coincidences with the death. I don't know. I don't have any answers for that. I just know that everything happened in like a very short period on a very intense night, where it just was like one thing right after another. Bam, bam, bam.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all negative from the start. And when I meant like that tremendous heat, it wasn't like a physical, it was physical, but it wasn't like something from the outside blasting me with heat. It was like the feeling that you get like when you take a shot of bourbon on an empty stomach.
Right, right.
It just feels from the bottom of your toes and just totally tingles to the top of your head.
You mentioned your two friends having negative impacts from this investigation. Did anything negative impact you?
Oh, with me?
Yeah.
Actually, no, but the thing was, until I got out of the things I was into, basically my life at that time was all negative, until I kind of had to change some things about myself. So my whole life up until 10 years ago was nothing but negative. So I can't really say if anything was connected, but
right.
All I know
did this experience have anything to do with you changing the direction of your life?
No. It kind of made me want more of it. So, I'm being 100% honest here. Other people say like, oh yeah, that would change me and make me want to worship God or anything like that. No, it just made me want to know more about it and taste more of that forbidden fruit.
That was actually I don't know if you're looking in the chat room, but Krista had asked a question if you had taken away anything from this experience, if there was anything that you had taken away from it.
Actually, the one thing that I can say that I've taken from it is that in this life, you know, say you worship the devil, say you worship, you know, any type of negative god or evil spirits or demons or whatnot, no matter what, there is nothing but good energy and bad energy. And that bad energy is definitely 100% real, and you can call it whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there. It's out there. And you can put labels on it, left in different ways, but it's there. And, you know, I've had a couple other experiences where they were good ghost experiences, but the one that really, you know, impacted me the most was, you know, the flip side of it was the darker side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say that I regret it because, you know, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you lovely people tonight about it. But it definitely will always be that point in my life where I can look at it and say, hey, you know what, that was some really heavy stuff, man. But I don't regret it. I don't regret it one bit.
Well, they're kind of like, one thing that does fascinate me, and as we go along and we learn more things, it just seems like us as humans, we have a tendency to be fascinated with the dark, you know,
yes,
as opposed to the light. And
yes,
I wonder about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the, you know, when you're on the side of the road and you see a horrible car accident. Do we speed up to get past it, or do we slow down?
Right. No, and also too, it's, you know, you hear more so about the good than you do the bad, and the bad is always something that is sort of, you know, shoved underneath the rug. It's never talked about, and so that's the inquisitive side. You know, it's the, okay, what are people not talking about? That's what I want to know about, and the more people sort of hide it, the more people want to know about it, and therefore that's the inquisitive nature in everybody wanting to figure out what it is. And that's the draw. That's why people go to it, and that's why people are fascinated by it.
Right. And I was very fascinated, and, you know, I still have my side of myself. You know, I still, you know, I'd rather watch definitely a horror film than I would watch a love film.
Well, yeah, I'd rather watch Halloween than a chick flick, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but some chick flicks are really horror movies.
Yeah, like the only romance as far as I'll get is watching, like, you know, Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'll find that romantic. You know? So.
Well, thank you for calling in, Nosferatu. But I mean, that was
that was fascinating.
That's actually the most fascinating story that I have ever heard out of all the shows that we've done, and personally that anybody's ever told me about. Really fascinating, and I mean, I hate to talk about it like that because there's just so much negativity that was within it. You know, I'm glad everybody's okay now, and I mean, is everybody okay? Do you still keep in touch with the people that you knew back then? And
oh, well, actually, I told my dudes that, you know, I was going to call in tonight, so they're probably at the other end of the computer like, son of a bitch, I can't believe he's talking about that. But, you know, I appreciate that, you know, you gave me this opportunity to talk about it. And if you ever have another open, you know, night like this, I got a couple more in my back pocket.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for calling in.
Oh, you're always welcome to call in.
All right. Thank you. You have a good night.
You too. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Later.
All righty.
Wow. You know what I forgot to ask? Is this in Canada? I want to go there.
Didn't we talk about Amy McPherson with Noah when we had him on?
Yes.
And was it, maybe I'm mistaken or not, but was it that she was later in life, maybe it was closer towards, you know, in her older years, that she was considered to be a fraud, or she was revealing that she was more into the riches than in her riches than in the good that she was doing, and that's what she was more concerned about. I don't know if I'm getting her confused with someone else of that nature, but maybe that, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. If the quote-unquote gods above saw it as that way and sort of created the negativity within that home, or she created her own negativity in that home because of the false pretenses that she had lived by.
Well, yeah. I mean, see, the word, what pops into my head, we were talking about faith healing or something like that, and I just find it interesting that here you have an evangelist, and not just her. I mean, like other people, the other televangelists and stuff, and they're preaching this word, they're preaching Christian values and stuff, but yet somehow they all end up having like these fancy clothes and big cars and big homes and stuff, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Here you are, you're preaching the good word, but yet you're reaping all these benefits from that. I mean, something there just doesn't mix. So your intentions, I always truly believe intentions kind of dictate what kind of experiences we have. So towards the end of her life, if the money became more important, then I'm sure the energy changed. It changed from being good to almost something negative.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has anything to do with the higher power. I think it's the basic intention.
I agree. All right,
That's fascinating, though.
Let's get to another caller.
Okay.
Let's hear some more stories.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's go to...
What's the area code?
989. Hi, you're on the air with Anthony and Lucy. Who is this?
Bonjour, it's Noah. How you guys doing?
Ooh.
Bonjour.
Bonjour?
In the Francais. I'm sorry. I cheated through French in high school. I know about 5 phrases. That's it.
Well, you said that quite well.
Parlez-vous français?
Hi, Noah.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. And I'm glad you guys mentioned me and Amy Simple McPherson. I have a lot to I have a lot of stories, but I would like to comment on that if I could.
Okay. Was I correct in saying that she was towards the end of her life known to be a fraud?
Most of them are.
Right.
She died a very mysterious death. She just disappeared. She was known for her dramatic plays about the end of days, about the final judgment, the rapture, things like that. She kind of brought in a lot of pageantry into the whole thing. I think that she got kind of kooky toward the end there. I think she had good intentions, like a lot of those types of evangelists, but I think it went awry. As far as it going demonic, or not even demonic, but that level of negative energy, I wasn't there, so I can't say. But that's surprising to me that it would have that much of an impact. I'm not sure, because she didn't die in that house. She died. Some say that she drowned in the ocean, so I'm not sure.
Well, he had mentioned that when he was in that house or in the mansion, that there was, all this Aleister Crowley and it looked like ceremonial, satanic worshiping type of things in there. So I don't know if any of that had to do with any of the negativity that was created in the home.
And I've never, honestly, in my research in the past 20-plus years, I've not heard of that. I'm actually going to research that to see if that truly was the case.
Okay.
I think honestly, with Amy Simple McPherson, I think at best she had good intentions and got greedy at worst, she was a complete fraud. But as far as bringing in that element, I'm not sure. I can't say for sure.
Gotcha.
But the person
Noah,
that yes.
Noah, I just got a quick question. Okay, now like he mentioned, like all the graffiti on the wall, and we've all been to haunted locations, and no matter what, there always seems to be some kind of graffiti on the wall to have to do with the dark side. Always. Do you feel that maybe, you know, all of this, people going in there and doing their little rituals and stuff, opens the place up to the negativity?
Absolutely, Lucy. You make a very good point. I think that could happen. And what I see is, you guys mentioned, you know, we're attracted to whatever we can get on the other side, and a lot of times it's maybe the more neutral or questionable stuff. Like with me, for example, after doing, including your show, after doing 5 radio shows and exposing a voodoo temple in Philadelphia, I have a photograph. I found several hair samples around my back door, which was really, really disconcerting. I don't know who had done it. Nobody in this area knows. My neighbors, I'm friendly, but they don't know the thing. They don't know a thing about me. But there was no graffiti, but there was hair. It was very intentionally placed. And I do think that sometimes people come in and they try to invoke spirit or the Great Spirit or spirits, and not always with the most pure intentions, but just with, hey, who can I get on the line that's going to do something? And I think that might be the case with Amy's house. I don't know, but that's a very, very good point.
Well, as far as intentions go, okay, and I did, you know, I kind of like did my research by talking to people, and one of the questions that they did come up with was, you know, voodoo versus voodoo, and so what I really got from this is that a lot of people really don't know what it's about, and like you said, maybe there's someone here with not so good intentions trying to get somebody on the other side, and they're just opening up like this big doorway of negative.
Absolutely. And I was disturbed at one of the universities where I teach. I spoke with a sociology professor about a lit class I was teaching, and he very flippantly said, well, here's the difference. Voodoo is white magic. Hoodoo is black magic. He was so dismissive and had no actual footing in what that meant that it pissed me off and horrified me at the same time for his students. Because hoodoo, which is folk medicine, actually is the reason we have pharmacies. In New Orleans, the very first pharmacy in the U.S. opened down there. And that's why we had soda fountains in pharmacies, because people came in and they said, this is my ailment. And the soda was actually a mixture prepared by the pharmacist,
right,
or by the hoodoo practitioner. And quinine was one of the big ingredients because of the mosquitoes down there. They're actually able to eradicate malaria in the southern states. And that pharmacy is still open today. I don't know where I was going with that, but it was a sidebar. But basically, I think a lack of understanding and spiritual curiosity is a wonderful thing. But at the same time, I don't know why people are so quick to call up dark things or scary things when they don't know what they're dealing with. Because I have been on the receiving end of some very dark things that I didn't know what to do with.
Well, besides, you told us that story, that Philadelphia story, which I still think about. I don't know if I could ever be in your shoes after that. Seriously, I envision myself being in that house and being you, and when you were telling that story, and people can listen to it on our archives. I don't want to repeat it again, but is there anything, any situation that you've been in that you can say maybe it was paranormal, whether it be within the voodoo nature or within ghostly nature, that sort of almost made you shit your pants? I mean, literally, anything that frightened you so much that that you just didn't know really what to do or what to think.
Oh my gosh, that's the 10,000-pound question. I've had quite a few, because I've kind of coined a name. I don't know if I've told you guys, I'm a phasmonaut. Phasma meaning spiritual, not meaning voyager, which means I like to experience every spirituality. And I have had things both good and unpleasant that have, thank you, good and unpleasant that have made me shit my pants. I've seen, I've literally seen people who have had their personalities washed away, is the best way I can explain it. They've dabbled in the occult and in other things, and I don't think the occult is bad. It's it's unknown knowledge, but they dabble in things that they don't really understand, and they're not prepared. That literally it impacts their life in such a visceral way that it's almost scary. I mean, it changes their personality. But at the same time, there's an equal thing that I've seen, people that have dabbled in the supernatural on a different note, that I've seen complete life changes. But you want to know what situation made me shit my pants? I can, let me see. I can give you one. I went to a snake handling Holiness Pentecostal church in here in Michigan, rural Michigan, and it was it felt like a normal church service to me, because that's what I was raised in. But I saw people take Mountain Dew bottles that were filled with kerosene or some other sort of accelerant with dish rags stuffed in them. And while they were, quote, in the spirit, they lit those on fire, and they held them under their chin, under their arms, under their children's chins and arms. And nobody felt any pain, nor were they burnt. I didn't know if it was mind over matter. I didn't know if it was demonic, but it had such a weird feeling. The actual atmosphere, it was like somebody had pumped nitrous oxide into the room, like I was at the dentist, where I had a good sense of well-being, but at the same time, what I was watching was a little bit horrific. They did not bring out the snakes that night at that particular service, but I saw people actually with fire going up their face, which, it would burn all my nose hairs out and save me the time of having to trim it. It would burn off my eyebrows, and I have to draw them on, maybe burn my bangs, but it was so terrifying that I couldn't leave, or I wanted to leave, but they kept saying, if there's anybody here that doesn't know Lord Jesus Christ, you get up front here, we're going to save right now, and they wanted to get me with a Molotov cocktail, and I couldn't do it. And so to me, that was a crisscross between what was supposed to be holy and what was scary. Mm-hmm. And in addition to the voodoo temple, that mesh kind of let me know that dark and light are kind of relative, I think, because to them, they felt like they were doing something really, sacred, but to me, it felt really dark and just it reeked of negativity. And I left there actually feeling a little bit physically sick because it was so intense. It was 3 hours long, and I almost couldn't bear to say, but I had to, like the car wreck, like your previous caller mentioned. I had to watch and see what happened, and to see if somebody lost their eyebrows.
There's some folks that I've spoken to and that I've heard who continually usually have negative experiences and have hard experiences, and I know the phrase that you mentioned before, and forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, phasmonot. Did I just say that right?
You
phasmonot.
sure did.
That's okay. You are seeking, or you were seeking, or you could be still seeking truth, within theology and or not truth, but you're just seeking knowledge within theology, and are exposing yourself to all of these different realms within theology and within history, and so therefore you put yourself in these situations, and therefore are exposing yourself to good and bad. There are folks that I know that who are not like you, who are not necessarily looking for anything, but continually have negative experiences or history. Do you think, in your experience and in your knowledge of all the studies that you've done, do you think that there's a reason for those experiences for people who are unlike you, who don't have that hunger for seeking out any type of knowledge, but yet have those types of negative experiences constantly all the time, or have those negative confrontations paranormally, that there may be a reason why that is happening, either it be some sort of interpersonal conflict that maybe they're trying to subconsciously try and come over or change, or maybe, I don't know, their guardian angels are trying to show them something, or somebody's trying to show them something. Do you think that there's a reason why those things are happening to them? Like maybe, for instance, say for our last caller, for Nosferatu's, but do you think that maybe there was a reason why that was happening to him, and the reason why he was going through the occult phase of his life, that maybe there was a need for that, and there was a need for him to go through that in order for him to change his life, hopefully for the better, to get him onto a path where he is, say, now?
That's a really good question, and I would say absolutely, because I've been there myself. I think that when we're seekers, we need to be a little bit specific. I mean, because it's basically, I would compare that to standing in a corner in a big city like Chicago and New York City and just saying, I would like somebody to come up and show me affection, without having any expectations or any discernment as to the type of person. If you just stood there with your arms open, you could have somebody walk up with, a cold sore, or with a cold sore, or a wonky eye, or somebody that's a bit of a pervert that walks up on you. You're basically a beacon for whatever. But if you have a little bit of discernment and say, I'm looking for somebody who is seeking some sort of affirmation as a human being and looking for love, and you shout that out, and there's people coming, that you have a very warm hug or something like that. And I think what happens is the fallout afterwards may not be spiritual, but more of the way you process the information. We've all had one-night stands. Wait a minute, maybe we haven't. But no, people that you've had, experiences. And sometimes you come away from those feeling like, you know what, I enjoyed that. I'm not going to feel guilty, or I like that person. I'd like to get to know them better. Or you may think, my God, I have to get tested. And it's all about discernment. I'm sorry for the very crude analogy. I've been doing that too much lately. But I know that everyone can relate to that.
I know, you can relate to it. Uh-huh.
In all honesty, I mean, really, Saint Lucia, the Virgin Lucia.
I'm here as the driven snow. What are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
Exactly. No, but seriously, if you want to have experiences, you know, be careful with what you choose. But to answer your question, Anthony, I think that when we put that out there, we do learn hard lessons. I learned a very hard lesson. I'll give a quick example, and then I'll quit hogging the line. Marie Laveau's tomb. The third time I went there, I dumped offerings in front of her tomb in New Orleans, dumped out Florida water, left her flowers, and in the process of giving her offerings, I was circled up by 3 people that tried to rob me. They actually, I pretended I was with a group, and I got out of that little walled one-city block and went into a church that was nearby, and they left. And I thought I was fine, but I was actually dabbling in something I didn't, at that time, really get. So I felt safe. But after I left that church, I walked into the French Quarter of New Orleans. And then me and the person I was with, we were circled up by a bunch of young gentlemen in broad daylight. And they had knives out. I swear to Buddha, God, Muhammad, whoever, this is true. They had knives out, and they were demanding $25 for a demo. That they gave us a demo CD, and once they handed it, they wanted $25. And it was almost like I brought something onto myself. I don't know what it was by doing that. And I think my lesson was either don't be going into cemeteries by yourself and trying to appease the dead. But it also might have been, you know, my life's path, and I don't judge anybody's life's path. I think we all walk in the light we're given. But it told me that, you know what, this probably isn't the path for you, because if voodoo is the best thing and Marie Laveau is a protectress, you probably shouldn't. That steered me in another direction. It took me away from that. Is that making sense or answering your question? I feel like I'm babbling.
No, this isn't a walk in a garden of roses. So you better know what you're getting into before you start anything. Basically.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Lucy.
No, a couple things just popping in my head real quick. First off, I'm really, really amazed at the experience that you had. Now, I've been there twice, and I've made the offerings twice at her grave. Both times was such a beautiful, wonderful, connected feeling, and I've never ever had that kind of experience in New Orleans in the French Quarter myself. So I'm a little bit like shocked at this, but then also too, it also brings one of the things that I got.
That's because Marie Laveau knows you're a witch already, anyway.
Well, I'm with my people there.
She's not going to send her minions after you.
The other part that I got from a lot of people when I was talking about voodoo this week, the consensus was more like you have to really believe in it for it to affect you. So when you went in and you're making your offering, did you truly believe that Marie was going to accept it, or did you truly believe that this was something that was going to, I mean, why did you make the offering? Was it just to go through the motions, or did you truly believe that you were making an offering to Madame Laveau?
Awesome question. At that time, my very limited understanding, I had the best intentions, and I thought I understood voodoo. The problem was I didn't. I didn't understand the Loa. I didn't understand how in voodoo there's different energies and entities.
Right.
And the offering I gave could have invoked a dark Loa rather than, or a hot one rather than a cool one. For example, Baron Samedi or Baron Criminel, who is Lord of the Dead, Lord of Crime. I could have done something to invoke that energy, and it had nothing to do with Marie Laveau, rather than invoking somebody like Damballa or Papa Legba. So I think my offerings were I was ill-informed, and I didn't know what I was doing at that time.
Okay, because you do realize that the act of making the offering to Marie is in exchange for something. Usually when you're making an offering, you are making a petition to her to intervene for you in something. A lot of people go there, they make offerings because they want they want to find love, or maybe it's because of money. So, I mean, did you have a particular need, or did you have a particular favor that you were looking for?
That's the problem. I didn't. I just wanted to connect.
Okay.
And I agree. That was my problem. But it was terrifying. The results were terrifying. It's like, okay, I went in there with a vague idea. I said, okay, I'm looking for some love, and the guy with the herpes on his lip, and the woman with, she had chancres on her tongue, came up and French kissed me. That's basically the result of what I did.
Okay. Okay. See, and that, I mean, like I'm saying, I mean, when you go to New Orleans, I mean, it's very, very serious. When you invoke Madame Laveau, and this is just in my experience and my learning about voodoo and the way it is, when you're making that petition, you are truly making a petition to Madame Laveau to grant you a favor. And I'm seeing here where it's like you just went in there and it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, but it opens up that whole doorway where the other Loas said, okay, sure, he wants something, let's give him something. Let's give him an experience.
Exactly. When you open that gate, for people that don't understand voodoo, when you open that gate, you're opening it to every type of energy that exists: destructive, criminal, healing, passion, and you have to be careful with asking about love, because with as Ruli, you can ask for love, but it can turn into lust, or it could turn into you can get a stalker, somebody who's obsessed. So I foolishly just grabbed the situation and said, hey, I'm here, I'm in New Orleans, I'm just going to make an offering and call it good. And that's where I went wrong. And I'm glad you clarified that, Luci, for your listeners, because that's absolutely what I did. Young and foolish and excited to be in New Orleans.
Yeah, you don't mess with Azuli. I mean, you ask her for something, you better be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it.
Absolutely, and she's very jealous at the same time, so you have to appease her and make sure that you give her attention, too, once she grants whatever you're asking for. So I didn't know.
Well, that's fascinating.
I try. I have other stories, but I mean I wanted to follow up and give my 2 cents.
Well, thank you so much for calling. It's
Thanks,
always a pleasure to talk to you.
Always a pleasure. Love you. Love your show, both of you guys. You're always doing great things, and I appreciate everything you guys do, and I'm glad you're on the air for us.
Thank you, Noah. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
You guys too. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye. That's why I don't mess with any voodoo, any hoodoo, any of that stuff.
Just don't make me bring the dolls out, okay?
That's why I keep you on the air.
You ready for another one?
Go ahead.
Okay, now this one, I think, if it is who I think it is. Hello, is this Marcus?
Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Hiya.
Is this Marcus?
Hello. Yes.
Is this Marcus from Germany?
No, this is Marcus from Ireland. Ireland.
Hey, Marcus,
Marcus.
how are you?
Can you remember it was a couple of weeks ago. There was a guy called in about the furries, and he mentioned the leprechaun.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And you said a wee hello for me and stuff, so thanks very much for saying hello on the radio then. But,
Are you welcome? Yeah, you said you were actually going to be investigating someplace too, right?
Yeah, it was the Titanic's ship that was, it was called the Tender ship, and her job was to supervise the Titanic when she was leaving a dock or going out for show or anything like that. But the ship was actually made right beside the Titanic, so the ship is full of history, and there was many people on board that weren't with us, if you understand.
Yes.
But, there was.
How was it? How was the investigation?
Yeah, it was really successful in the term of being amazed by historical engineer. The beauty in the ship was unbelievable, but there's something about that ship that it's not right. There's something not right about that ship. It's very sad, very emotional. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I am very interested in anthropology, which, as you would know, is ancient mythology.
Right.
And I look into Irish mythology, which is all about the furries. And I must say, there was, well, let's say that the furries said hello, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the experience that I had with the furries, and very, very, very scary.
Where did you have this experience?
Well, it was me and my girlfriend, Rachel. She's very spiritual, and I was staying over in her house, and I smoke, and I know you do as well, Anthony, which is
yes.
which is it's a forbidden pleasure. But so I went out the front of the house to have a wee smoke, and my girlfriend came out with me because I do get scared, you know, just I think everybody's afraid of the dark in some level, but
right.
When I am outside, well, Ireland it's very mystical, so at night time it's very strange. But so I was having the smoke, and I just openly, how you're meant to talk to the furries is you're meant to acknowledge their presence, and that's it. And I was sitting there having my smoke, and I just said to my girlfriend, I wonder if the furries is with us. And it was just very, very quiet. And have you ever got the silence that it's actually louder than sound?
Yeah.
Just will you listen? You just listen to that moment's silence, and I swear to God that the trees among us moved and they danced, and they were moving that much that the wood began to crack, and I was looking, trying to see for. In Ireland, we don't have bears. In Ireland, we don't have any big animals, you know. So there's nothing that can make any movement. So I ran inside the house again, and I was like, "Oh my God, did you see that? Did you see that?" And my girlfriend was like, "Yes, please, can we go to bed? Please, can we go to bed?" We ran upstairs as fast as I could, jumped into bed, and silence again, absolute silence again. Now this was about 3 in the morning, about 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And all we could hear was little bells that slowly began to ring in the room.
In the room.
Yeah, in the room. And I closed my eyes, and it was ringing. It was like 1,000 pins falling from the sky, and it really scared me. And then, honestly, I know you're Native American, Luci, so
yeah.
That realm of, I know, Anthony, you're American, which you're just as much Native American as Luci, but I'm saying that Luci's a wee bit more tuned in to so I don't know if you have experienced this, Luci, but all of a sudden in the room, a blue light came on in the middle of the room and began to spin and spin and spin. And I said, please leave me. Please, you're scaring me. And it just completely left the room.
Mhm.
And
okay, Marcus. So what you're saying is you heard the bell, you saw the light. What were you feeling?
Absolute fear.
Did it feel negative to you?
Yeah. Yes.
I've never had that kind of experience, but it does sound, like other experiences that I've read about. But I'm really interested about the bell sound within the room itself.
Yeah,
You've never
strange.
heard it before?
No, but the thing that scares me the most, Luci, is that I read the Bible and stuff, and but even in all cultures, when we die, the death bell tolls. You know?
Ah, okay.
Now, I am not saying that this thing was trying to tell me that I'm going to die, but bells are usually the symbol of, when the church come to pray, the bells shall ring. But the thing that's very strange about it is that when you explore the realm of the fairies, they're full of tricks that if you have a good experience with them, they could be just leading you on, completely leading you on into a pit of complete oppression. And I have had other experiences in my home, in my actual home, that I have had to kind of ignore the fairies because I have had ice trays thrown at me. I've had my remote control flew being moved, things that go on. I heard the caller saying there that, no, I think it was you, Lucy, that if you make an offering, they will want something from you. That I give the fairies. I acknowledge their existence, and they made a fool of me.
Mhm.
You know, but
well, they're tricksters.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
and
Marcus, I have a couple of questions, but first, I did want to add something when you were talking about the blue light. Lucy, do you remember? And I believe this is on our archives, Marcus. I don't know if you were able to listen in on the last time that we went to Eastern State Penitentiary when we did our investigation there. I'm not sure if it's on the live investigation or not, but Lucy, do you remember when we were in cell block 2, I think it was, and I saw that bluish green light form right at the edge of the cell? I remember that, and then we heard a sound. We were at the end of the cell, and I remember seeing the light at the edge of one of the cell blocks, and then we heard the sound at the end of the hall. And I don't know if I remember if it's recorded on the archive. I know I have it on video because I was recording it on my own video camera. But that's very, very similar to your story about this blue light forming. Amazing. But my question to you, though, is, and you're talking about fairies, and you had mentioned to us, and you had privately messaged us about, talking about and getting this topic on the air, which I'm fascinated with it, and I really do want to get someone to come on and to talk about fairies, and we're trying to get someone really good to come on and explain it and really, really talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly about fairies, and really get into the topic, because I really want to get to know and get familiar with it, because I have really very little knowledge of fairies.
Well, sorry, Anthony, I have actually researched on this program to give you a hand with this actual issue. But
I think I mentioned to you that I would love to have you actually on the show with us when we do have it, and sort of have, maybe we even do like a fairy roundtable and have like you and a couple other people. That would be really awesome. But my question, though, to you is, you had talked about the experience with the bell and the light, and now you were just mentioning about having these things physically moving and being thrown either at you or within the room, the remote or the ashtray. Are you certain that it is fairies, or could it actually be spirits doing this?
Yeah, that is one thing that why I'm looking into the Bible, because what if all along this is a demonic presence and it has just tricked me? The whole roller coaster, the whole ride, I was completely on the wrong cart. I was on the wrong cart, Right. I was on the right ride. But I was on the wrong cart, and that's a really good question.
Yeah, because I've heard the little research that I've done on the fairy topic is that, some people are saying, well, no, fairies are all good. They're, don't listen to anybody that talks about that they're bad. Yeah, right. And then some people are saying, no, all fairies are bad. And then some folks are saying, no, there are both. And then there are some that are good that trick you, and that will make you believe that they're good, and then they'll turn bad. And some then compare them to spirits who are almost similar to the same way, that there are negative spirits out there who will form themselves as, and we've heard this many, many times, negative spirits will form themselves as child spirits who then sort of try and get you to like them because they are a child. Who doesn't like, talking to a little boy or a little girl and try to help them?
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden they turn into this negative entity and try to consume you or follow you home and create all this negativity. So it's almost similar and same. I'm fascinated with this fairy topic, and it's almost, again, and I always say this, they're all similar. It's so similar in this web. And this little, invisible thread that sort of lies in between all of this is very similar. So it's very interesting, your story.
Yeah, there's other. I have actually met men who have met the furries and who have actually made offerings to the furries, and they have been healed, completely healed from illness. I'll actually tell you one wee tiny trick that you could possibly do. Do you have any blackthorn trees or hawthorn trees by around your neighbourhood or the area? If you're familiar with your trees.
I'm not. I don't know.
You see, the furries hide among trees. One theory is that trees are 80% full of water, and water is a very good conductor, as you know, and the easier it is for a spirit to manifest, it is going to use that. So, with furries being so old, very old spirits, the oldest furry ever acknowledged was 4,000 years ago. So you could be right about the demonic spirit mimicking a furry because the demonology predates the furries. So no matter what in history, the furries are a historical, documented account. Even the word the fairy tale, the source of all children's stories, has the name the furry in it. But I think Hollywood has set the furries up in a way that they actually enjoy it, because it actually puts people in the mind of that all furries are good, as you said. So now the knock-on psychology effect is going to be, I will talk to the furry because it's good. But I'm telling every listener now, if you meet a furry, do not talk to it. Do not interact with it. Completely walk away. But I'll tell you a wee trick to get 1 year of luck. 1 year of luck from the furries. Now, I have done this twice, 2 years in a row, and I have had nothing but good luck. If you do find a little tree and a slug, do you have slugs around when it's wet and stuff?
Yes.
Do you have any slugs?
Yeah,
slugs. If you pick up a black slug and place it on the highest branch of a tree, the furries will take your slug and the wish will be on the slug, and that is 1 year good luck. Now, it sounds strange, but that's it.
That's so easy to do.
That sounds so cool.
And the furries really like fresh cream. They love sweets. So if you leave,
I'm not giving up my sweets. I'm not giving up my cookies. No.
I automatically thought of you. You know that.
Sweets.
Oh, Cookie Monster here.
But the leprechauns is a very serious matter. If you come in contact with a leprechaun, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble.
Really?
Yeah. The way the leprechaun
Marcus, I have a question.
you're familiar with Lem Castle?
Oh yes, in is that County Cork? I think it is.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure exactly where it is, but
Yeah. Yes.
there is the Bloody Chapel up at the top. There is something that's there, which I'm not sure if it's elemental, if it's fairy, what it is. But have you heard anything? I mean, do you know of anything that might identify what's up there?
Apparently, I've heard that the landlord, the actual landlord, is the leprechaun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
I've
every
never heard
landlord.
that one.
Yeah, you see the leprechauns are all about law and legal. They will bring up lots of legal things. They'll actually know your bank account. They'll know they'll know everything about money. If they are money mad, and they will look at your eyes and can tell if you have money or what wealth you have, and they will use that against you.
Really? So therefore, the leprechaun and the pot of gold. I mean, it makes sense.
Oh yes, and the word leprechaun is leprechaun, which is Irish for shoemaker, and if you ever meet a leprechaun and you somehow can get out of trouble, one deal that you can make with a leprechaun is that he can fix one shoe, just one shoe, and the little furries, they pay him 1 penny of gold each shoe he repairs, and that is where the leprechauns get their money from. He is the bank accountant of the furries, and he controls who has money and who does not. But the only person who can control a leprechaun is a banshee. Have you ever heard of a banshee?
Yes.
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 The only she is the mother of all furries. She is the mother of all the furries, and if you can bargain with a banshee, now the only way you can get a leprechaun out of your midst is if you can make a deal with a banshee to get it out. But now you have a problem of a banshee on your hands.
It's just you can't get out of anything.
Once you hear the scream of a banshee, aren't you supposed to be close to death?
Yes, she's the messenger of the other world. She would come and wail, scream at night, and that would be the message of not your death, but a common death.
Okay.
But a banshee walks among us. She's very beautiful. So, Luci, you could be a banshee. See, banshees. Everybody thinks that a banshee is ugly and evil. Banshees are the mother of the furries. So you can actually reason with her. She's really, really sympathetic. But see, a banshee, she will deliver the message. She will not fail.
This is fascinating.
This is like a whole show that needs to happen here. I mean, this is fascinating.
But we're gonna. I promise you, Marcus. We're gonna find somebody, and we are this close. If you can see my fingers right now, we are this close to finding somebody to have on to talk about leprechauns and elementals and fairies and all of that stuff. Because I've been doing my own little research, and I'm finding out a lot of really interesting stuff. And there's not a lot of information out there, and that's what's intriguing me more. To have somebody on, because there's not a lot of information for people to know about, and so I really want to get this message out to people to talk about and discuss what fairies are all about and what elementals are, because there's a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people don't really know what it is and what it's all about, and they think they know, and people think they know what elementals are or what fairies are, and they sort of are mistaken by it. And so I really want to sort of clear the air and make sure that everybody understands what it actually really is. And that's what's intriguing me about it. So I definitely do want to keep you. I'm going to keep you in mind, and I do. We're going to reach back out to you, and have you back on the show.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thanks, Anthony.
This is fascinating.
Yeah, and I really love your work. It's absolutely fascinating that you can connect to the radio across the world, and like we're the same people. Just the same people.
We are. We're all the same. We're all interested in this fascinating world of the paranormal, and that's what connects us all. That's what's great. Nothing separates us. There's no land, there's no water, there's no nothing. It is just voice. That's what connects us all. That's all you need is the voice. And so thank you for calling in all the way from Ireland. And we appreciate you listening to us, and we definitely are going to keep in touch with you. And so look out for an email from us or some sort of message from us in the future.
Yes, well, thanks very much again for having me in, and you are great hosts, really great hosts.
You.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Marcus. Yeah. Have a great weekend,
thanks,
all righty?
Okay, thanks. God bless
Take care.
you.
God bless you too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I need to find a leprechaun that is holding all my funds.
I'm telling you, none of these fairies are getting my cookies. None of them.
Just remember, I'm a banshee, okay?
Well, you better tell your fairies to lay off my cakes and cookies because they're not getting any of them. Scream all you want and yell all you want. I've been, there was a couple of people that actually had mentioned to us about fairies and elementals, and I think it was, who is it, Crystal Savannah is her name? Something Savannah.
Savannah Corneliuson.
Savannah Cornelian, or Cornelius. She had messaged Corneliuson, sorry. She had messaged us on Facebook, and it was weird because it was almost at the same time that Marcus did as well, talking about elementals and fairies, and it seems as though it's a sign that we have to have...
Everything happens for a reason.
Everything.
And
the funny thing is, though, tonight is a full moon, and here we are talking about paranormal and ghostly tales, and we've got a full moon right outside tonight. So... it was interesting that we had those two folks reaching out to us wanting to know more about elementals. And, to be honest, I really didn't even think about that twice, about elementals. I've heard the term elementals, but I never really thought about it twice. And so in doing the little research, I really never really found anything about it. And everybody just talked about, it's the air, it's the water, it's the land, and whatever, and the fairies that represented each of them. And I mean, obviously there's no experts in the field, but the folks who claim to know about them had such a varied opinion about them all. And so we're finding it a little bit difficult to try and find someone who truly is sort of level-headed or has a level mind, and an open mind, I guess, in the discussion or within the topic of fairies and elementals, and who can honestly talk to us about what they know and what they don't know. And that's who I really want to get on air with us to talk about what's out there, what information is out there. And here we have Marcus, who's from Ireland, who I think is probably the epicenter of what fairies is all about and what leprechauns is all about. I mean, honestly. And so, maybe it is, maybe we do reach back out to Marcus and see if there's anybody that he may know within Ireland that he can refer to, because in America there really isn't anybody that has really studied it as much. So, we're definitely going to try and see if we can get somebody on about that, because I think it's fascinating. I don't know about anybody else, but I think it's fascinating. And who knows? Again, like we've always said, it leads to the other sides of the paranormal as well. And as we talked about, there are these connections between all of them. Marcus was mentioning about how, obviously, within his story that he was saying that, the fairies are only about 4,000 years old. I don't know how true that is, but obviously spirits and, entities are obviously older than that, and therefore that entities could probably be manifesting themselves as fairies. They're just another form, just like shadow people are just another form, possibly another form of entities themselves, and creating the forms and manifesting themselves into something else, that they're just spirits in another energetic form. Is that true or not true, or who knows what it is? But, it's just all interesting to see how connected they all are, and if it is true in that manner.
Well, I think it's really interesting, though, because here in the United States, we're babies. I mean, we haven't been around for, as long as you're talking like Ireland, and you're talking about like all of these entities or beings or whatever they are obviously have been there for ages and ages. And I'm really amazed because doing the research, looking into this, there really isn't a whole lot. And I want to know what an elemental is. I still don't know.
Do we have time for one more caller?
If we make it a quick one.
Okay, let's see if we can make it a quick one.
To area code to 540. Hi, you're on the air with Anthony and Luci. Hello.
Hi. My name is Heather. First time caller.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, Heather.
Hi. I just wanted, it will be quick because I'm a little nervous. I've never done this before. But,
okay, Heather.
Yeah?
Heather, relax.
Yeah.
Breathe in. Breathe out. I'm only human. My name is Anthony. Luci is only human. You're just talking to us two. Don't worry about it. Just relax and talk.
Well, I just wanted to verify your first caller, Nosferatu's, but that is, I'm the Heather he was talking about.
Oh.
Heather.
Yes. And I just wanted to call in to verify that, yes, that happened. I was there that night. This happened. And I've experienced a lot of paranormal stuff before and afterwards, but that was the night, I think that is the main night that always stuck with me, what happened that night. And I'm listening to him online, and I was just, oh my God, he's talking about me, and I just wanted to call in and let your viewers know that, yeah, I'm the girl. I was there.
So Heather, we had asked him, sort of what were his reasons and his sort of mind frame why he went there first. What was your sort of intuition or mindset in going there back in 1998? What were you thinking of? What were your hopes, or what were you thinking of walking into the house? Was it just for fun, or were you thinking, maybe you'd find something spiritual, or was it just a night out of just with friends?
Well, it was a crazy day to begin with, and I've always been inclined to finding stuff spiritual. The paranormal has always interested me. At the time, he and our friend Lawrence was more into the dark stage. I was more into the paranormal. I've had experiences before, and it just they came up out of the blue. We actually spent the day driving around Southern California, having little adventures, and they were actually going back from L.A., and they brought up the McPherson Castle, and they're like, oh, we should go there tonight. And the reason I went was it interested me. I've always been interested in the paranormal, and I was hoping to see what I could find, and whoa. That was, like I said, a night I'll never forget, especially he did talk about me losing, that was my first pregnancy that I lost.
Right.
he talked about the window cracking in the car. That window crack was on my side, next to me, because he and I were in the back of the car. And when that happened, it was the crack right by me, right by my head. And it was like some rock from nowhere just went, but it like cracked from the inside. And that freaked us out. And I don't know how to explain it.
What were you thinking? I mean, what was going through your mind through the whole entire night and the drive home?
Well, on the drive home afterwards, it was just shock. It was just, I was in absolute shock. I've never experienced something that crazy, I guess. You know what I mean? I've seen paranormal things afterwards. I've like I said, I've had inklings that there's things out there even before that, but that was like an awakening. Like, wow. I never would have expected to be in a home like that. I never would have expected this. I remember him talking, you know, the heat, the blast of heat, it
felt
was
the
shock.
heat also?
I was just in shock. Oh yeah. On a cold November night, yes, I felt the heat also.
Krista,
like,
wait,
One
I'm
thing
sorry.
I do want to say, Heather, I am sorry about your loss. Okay?
Yes.
That's one thing.
We are.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I figured it was you know, it was meant to be. You know, obviously, I went on to have 2 beautiful kids in the future, but what freaks me out is that window cracking in the car, right next to me, and then 6 hours later, you know, in the middle of the night having a miscarriage. I wonder if it had something to do with that.
You know,
I don't know. It's something that still stays with me. That is the one paranormal experience that will always stay with me because it was so surreal. I don't really believe in demons. I believe that there is energy. I believe there is dark energy out there. It's all energy, positive and negative. I wasn't going there to, like, when I went there, what was I thinking? What was I going after? I was not going after something negative. I was going after, I guess, on a hunt, like the ghost hunters you see doing today, you know?
Right.
I was not expecting that. And the stories that went around about, and that's what our friends were telling us when we went there that night years ago, was all these, down deep in the basements there was, you know, people, like devil worshippers, I guess you can call, would go and make animal sacrifices. And I think all that energy and the history of the place is what brought it up, what made what happened that night happen. I wasn't summoning dark forces, but it just happened. Like I said, I really don't know how to explain it. I think the main reason I called in was to, oh my God, he's talking, this is my best friend of 23 years talking about this. And I want to just call in and back it up saying, yeah, I was there. You know, I can confirm this happened, and I really don't know what else to say, you know, because I'm sitting here with my 13-year-old son, and I told him about this story before. And we're listening tonight, and he's like, Mom, you got to call in, tell him you were there.
Well, the one question that I had asked your friend towards the end of when he called in was what did he sort of take away from that night, you know, from that experience? Was there anything that, not so much that, you know, what did you learn from it, but was there anything that sort of stayed with you that maybe changed your mind about things or made you maybe a better person or changed your mindset or maybe changed your life? Was there anything good that came from that night besides all of the negativity and all the bad experience and all of the bad that had happened that night? Was there anything good that came from it that you were able to take away?
what good came from it was, I've always believed in, like I said, I've always believed in the paranormal before and afterwards. But like I said, I didn't go there to summon dark forces, but I'm more,
Right.
the good thing is I'm more aware of the energy that I put out in my life. That the more dark energy, even when I'm not aware of seeking it, look what happened. I mean, you don't, I don't know how to explain it. I really don't know how to explain it. I guess I took it away as try not to mess with that, because like I said, dark energy can bring up dark even when you're not looking for it, and that's not something I ever want to invite into my life, I guess. I've had like other experiences. I live here now in Virginia, and I recently lived in my sister's home for 4 years and got, picture evidence of paranormal. I've got all kinds of, experience the last 4 years I've lived here, but I don't seek out like the negativity of it. I try to keep it out of my life since then. You know what I mean?
Right.
So because I really don't want to experience something like that again. I don't know what that was. All I know is it was one of the most surreal, most scariest, I think, moments I've had in my life.
Well,
I don't. I'm a better writer than I am a speaker, so.
No, you've done very well. I mean, I don't know.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's amazing that you can actually even talk about it, because a lot of people probably would just shun themselves and crawl into a hole. You've been able to, and what I can gather from after this experience, you've been able to have a great life. I mean, you have 2 great children, and I'm assuming you have a great life now, and so a lot of people, if they've ever gone through probably a quarter of that experience, probably would have just crawled up in fear, and who knows what their life would have been like. So maybe one of the things that you've taken away from that experience is that you've been able to, like you said, change the way that you put out energy. And so yes, there was negative that was coming from there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to now put out negative. You were putting out positive, and you continue to put out positive. Even though that you experienced negative, you didn't have to take that negative and continue to put out negative. You kept putting out positive, and that's what you got. What I'm gathering is what you got from that is you kept putting out the positive, and therefore your life has turned for the better. And I think that's what Nosferatu's butt had done as well, is he kept putting out positive, and his life turned around for the better, I believe. And so, therefore, that's what you guys have turned around from that. And if anything, that's what what was learned from that experience. So, if anything good, then that is what you've taken away from that experience.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, guys. Giving a shout out to everybody out there. Yeah, I'm not Nosferatu's butt. But thank you. Thank you for listening to my little story. And you got a new listener now. I can't wait to hear your next broadcast. And,
what's your 2 kids' names?
Nicholas and Ian.
Nicholas and Ian, hello. Thank you for listening to us, and we appreciate you calling in, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, you guys. Keep it going. I can't wait to listen next time.
All righty. Have a great weekend, Heather.
You too.
All righty. Bye-bye.
We have 1 minute and 47 seconds left, so should we talk about what's going to happen next time?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay, next week. First off, thank you, everybody, for calling in. But let's talk about sharing, and we're going to go back to one of our favorite topics again, which is UFOs. And we're going to take a journey into the past. We're going to learn about UFO sightings around the 1800s, ancient Native American legends that have to do with UFOs. We're going to be talking with Cyrus Lobanade, the author of 50 Shades of Alien Gray. Cyrus is going to be here next week to talk about his book, in which he interviewed many witnesses from Utah, from all walks of life, from military to Native American tribal members. And the stories that he gathered are going to make you think twice about what you believe about UFOs and extraterrestrials. So you got to be here, okay? Thank you, everyone, for listening tonight. Thank you, everyone, for calling in, whether it's live or on the archives. Your support means the world to us. Thank you, Anthony, for being the brains of this operation. So until next week, Space Cadets, keep the force with you and have a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio.